All right, here we go. In this episode, we're going to be setting up Selenium WebDriver, which is a really cool program for automating web tasks or for writing bots. The benefit over, say, getting the contents of a page with curl, or if you use PHP, file get contents, or Java can read from a URL too, is that's like the stub of the page in many cases. And then a lot of the times the content is dynamic, which means that AJAX calls are made to the server of the site, and also based on the interaction within the page, additional content will continue to be shuffled in and out. So you can imagine on most popular sites such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you're not going to be able to accomplish much automation. Um, Google, Bing also fall in that category, using the traditional old school methods. So that's why we want to use chromedriver. So we'll be using Eclipse and the Java JDK in this video. Um, it's worth getting if you're trying to get Selenium working really quickly. So this is what is this? This is Eclipse Mars, and I just download. Well, I already had it on my computer, but here's how you download it. Just search Eclipse download Mars, click download. There's a bunch of options, but you'll want this one here, the IDE for Java developers. And a lot of times I have to install a JDK for the first time I use a computer, but that may come installed with Eclipse these days. If you get an error or anything, come get Java 7 or 8 here. And then the final piece of the puzzle is there's actually two pieces. You need the chromedriver, which is the program that gets run by Selenium, and I need to add this link also. Selenium WebDriver jar download. Let me add this to the download list. And by the way, all these links are in the description section below. So you'll want to go and click maybe on this link here, but I'll put this. Alright, so when you open this up, you'll get a bunch of files, and the main way that Java is packaged up is in jar files. So, one second while this loads. I can already tell you it's going to look something like that. And they have it all bundled up here in one big file, but they also have the lib separately, so you can kind of see all the stuff that's going on. These are the dependencies as well as the Selenium secret sauce. So let's go in here. I have all this stuff installed. Let's make a new project in Eclipse. And if you have never used Eclipse before, they have a bunch of different flavors now. But this is what I grew up on writing Java programs. They just have a good user interface for once you get the hang of it. So I didn't want to make a class, sorry. The main umbrella thing is a project. So go file, new Java project, and we'll call it WebDrivers. This is we'll have all our different little drivers under here, so don't be too specific with your project name. That's where the classes come in. So let's finish that off, I should say, and open this thing. Oh, this is kind of weird. There we go. So you see the source folder is empty. Right click on that and do new class. I like to check make a main function. You probably should too in this case. And we'll call this Google search. You'll want to go here to build path, configure build path. You should see a JRE or a Java library in here. But we're going to need to add some extra stuff that's not in the Java library. And most of that's packaged up right here in this jar that we got from Selenium. Let's hit apply. Okay. And we'll dive in here. So the basis is that we want to give this thing a good starting point here, which is the Chrome executable that we downloaded from, oh, I should show you that, from right here. Search chromedriver.exe. This Google page has them all. Go here, click the latest, and get the appropriate one. Let's go back to this. And Eclipse also makes it easy to handle dependencies in Java. If you've never used it before, you've got to do imports up top. Like this is in file.io, I believe, yeah. So just mouse over and the tooltip that comes down will give you the import option. Let me make sure I'm streaming here. Looks good. Sorry about that. So the file for me is located on my C drive in a folder called let me just copy this. It's a folder called Selenium, and then there's the exe in there. And then there's this line where we set a system property, WebDriver.chrome.driver, and we use this path from here. And now that I think about it, you might just be able to put that string in here. This is just from the example that I learned on. So let's dive in further and make a new Chrome driver. This is where it gets fun. Let me make sure I got the right jar here. Import Chrome driver. So it recognized that I added that jar. So we'll import those things as suggested from the Selenium repo, and we're good to go. So now we have this thing. It's a driver that basically will be able to access Chrome and the entirety of the internet through Chrome for you to crawl. So this will be fun. Driver dot. Let's start with the simplest starting point. Let's just get Google. Whoa, sorry. And then I believe it's close and driver dot. Quit. Something like that. Let's just run this thing. Class not found exception. Let me make sure I have all the imports here. Let me make sure. I think I might have to add all those other libraries into. Let me see if I can just try it with those other things. Because now that I think about it, this is 1,300 kilobytes, and there are jars in here much bigger than that. So let's add all of those. And this one. Nice. Okay. So it opened up over there. So it went to Google and closed, um, as expected. And if you don't put this thing at the end, like sometimes I don't even write these, and it'll leave up the browser, so you can do additional things. Um, One of the hard things that I don't like about this, and I'm still learning, and I'll post updates on the process, but it's a little bit hard to do asynchronous things and get all the timing right. You can't pass back like callbacks or even, yeah, really it doesn't work well with Java asynchronous. So you kind of have to know how long things are going to take and plan it accordingly. It does do a good job of, say I do .get Google, it won't run the next line until that page is loaded. Although you know that pages load in parts a lot of times. So the base page will load up, and then that'll kick off other resources to be loaded. So sometimes you might even want to do like a thread dot sleep. We don't need to here, but and always it, it makes you throw an exception. But I'm gonna comment this out, and just to demo something, I'm gonna have it go to Google, Bing, YouTube. What is it? MSN? Is that something? No. Let's go to the NBA. Hopefully they're all secure servers. Alright, let's get this on screen here. You can see up here it says Chrome is being controlled for automation or by automated test software. So you see it was right once the page loaded, it moved on to the next one. So I just wanted to show that it's pretty synchronous on this call. But there's other things you can do, and this will all be available on the LoveTech site in the article. But you can run JavaScript. So I have this function here. We all love jQuery. So I have this function that you can call if you need jQuery. The cool thing is that a lot of pages have jQuery already, so obviously only call it when appropriate. There's this function here, which will run any JavaScript. So you pass it the driver that we set up and what you want it to do. So let's keep going here, and let's how about we make it search Google, right? I remember when I was writing old school crawlers, that would be one of the first roadblocks you run into is like searching things like Google or anything with an Ajax content. Some pages are much easier to crawl with those types of crawlers than with these, but this has its. Whenever you hit a wall, there's nothing you can't automate with Selenium. Well, I don't want to say nothing, but all these easy to use mass consumer sites with big buttons everywhere. Yeah. Alright, so there's going to be an input in here. List-IB. So you can run. I wonder if this page has jQuery. This is all unscripted, folks. Nope. But that's the line that we're gonna do. And I can show you what this does essentially, this function. It just runs this big JavaScript line, which is the source code for jQuery. Really packs down light. So let's try the jQuery import. Oops, that's weird. That's weird. The coloring isn't right. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's got all this sorry about that, guys. It's got escape characters in there for the I forgot about that. So this is a cool function. It allows you to import jQuery without having to worry about all the escaping of the characters. Because it's in double quotes, so I had to put these extra slashes. So let's just try this out. We'll go to Google, right? We load jQuery, and then we'll run a JavaScript. And the JavaScript has been decided. Sorry about those single quotes up there. I use JavaScript more than Java these days. JavaScript you can use either single or double, but Java you have to use double and escape it if you use doubles again within. Alright, so hopefully it's going to open up Google, put the value test in that input box, and then stay open because I have those commented. Take 3. Now you see that? So we've all used Google before. We know what to do after you type it in the box, right? Some of us don't know these IDs of these elements offhand, but that's where Chrome tools come in. And if you've never used Chrome tools, check out my last video. Sorry, there's some information in there, and I'll also be going into much more depth about all these great utilities that Google gives down here. Firefox too, and how to use it. It's a little bit overwhelming when you first get started, and you're like, why'd they put all this crap in here? It's so confusing. But it's really worthwhile. Essentially, you've got these tabs up here. Elements console is really good, and so is network. Sources too, if you need to debug. Those are the ones I use the most. Okay, so back to the point. At any rate, as my friend would say. Alright, so it's an input with the type submit. I bet you there's only one of these on the page. Okay, so the cool thing is that we ran this program through the JavaScript, through the Java. So it already ran the import the jQuery, and it used that to populate this. So at this point, I can play around with jQuery in console here. If you've never used console, this lets you run JavaScript in the context of the page. So I can see, for instance, how many elements match input type equals submit. And I'm going to copy this because I bet you only one. Oh, shoot, 2. If you open it up, you can mouse over, see what it's talking about. Okay. So, I'm feeling lucky, guys. What about you? I'm feeling pretty lucky. So, if you've ever used arrays in programming languages, you know the 0 indexed. So I'm accessing the second element of that array, or the first really. So this I'm feeling lucky button. And that clicks it. So we'll add that to our nice little jQuery script here. And the good thing, we know that JavaScript executes sequentially. So we can just kick off a thing. And you can even return something. And see, this function returns a string, which is the response given by the program. But the problem is, if you try to do something that takes some time, or if you want to do a loop, set interval, for instance, where you do something every 5 seconds, say scroll down your Twitter feed and post after post, you don't really know how long that's going to take. And in fact, it could take, with perpetual scroll, it could just go on forever. So there's an art to designing automation. I think ideally you want to hook it into a database, like an engine where you store activity and maybe even have a couple of computers working on this. You probably want to use VPNs, virtual private networks, so that you don't get flagged. But it's actually really works to your advantage that it all happens through a Chrome browser, because it to the server it looks like just a user fumbling through, just like any user fumbles. All right, back to the point. So I have this bit of logic here that clicks "I'm feeling lucky." We'll add it to this genius piece of code, which just sets that text box to say test. Of course, we have to pick something good to end the show with on the setup video for "I'm feeling lucky." So I should have tested this beforehand, but we'll do what's a good one, guys? Anyone in the comments? All right, let's do Phil Oaks. Or how about this quote here? Truth forever on the scaffold. Wrong forever on the throne. And it's running off screen. Hope I can bring it over. Ah, what happened? You see, it filled in the text. Let's see here. I can try just putting a little delay. Maybe Google like makes you mouse over or something. Maybe this video is going to have to go into overtime. Let's see. We'll figure it out. Window.set timeout is a JavaScript function which runs a function which we'll define as an anonymous function here with that contents in a certain period of time. So we can do it in 777 milliseconds. I'm feeling nervous about this because I haven't tested this. So Google might be onto us. What's weird is if you run it here, what was that? I'm feeling trendy? What is that? Google. What the? I've never seen that side of Google. Let's stick to the Google search, like sane people. So this is a sorry. Jesus. This is how you select an input element by its name, or really any tag with an attribute. You know what? I didn't need to do that. A lot of times you'll put a JavaScript variable in there. That's weird. I should probably have this a little bit larger. Ah, that's not what I wanted. Alright, guys, time to improvise. I want to do some I need to fake it out, make it think I'm a user. Let's trigger key up and input. Those are two things that get triggered when you type into that box. I wonder if it has anything to do with mouse movement. I want it to think that I pasted that in. Nope. Let's go full screen. You gotta get serious here. Maybe it makes sure that you focus on that element. Focus is an event when you click on a text box on a website. And you can fake it with jQuery, trigger focus. All right, well, focus, set the val. Let's shorten this just so I want to know if it's selecting it. Ah, that's the wrong button. It works though. Whoa, it's running like two of them. All right, well, we have a form here, boys, by the name of F. I believe with forms by a certain name, you can just use that as a variable. And I believe you can submit a form by its name. And if you can't do it this way, All right. I was gonna say you could do it with JavaScript or with jQuery. We'll try it first, and then we'll try the timeout still, and we'll try it within the timeout. Going all out here, whatever works. Hey, look at that. So then you could, at this point, have a you can either pump out the contents of the page. Let me find you that bit of code. Oh, that'll have to be a follow-up video because it's in a different project. But you can parse that with Java, or you could save it to a file and parse it with another language. This whole thing can be scripted into an automated cron job, and I think we all need to work on our ability to store stuff into databases, and just get all the information that's on the internet and share it with the world. You know, people that can't afford to pay the academic fees. You know, I think we should all remember Aaron Swartz. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Let me read you a quote, pulling it here, from his Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto. Information is power, but like all power, there are those who want to keep it for themselves. The world's entire scientific and cultural heritage, published over centuries in books and journals, is increasingly being digitized and locked up by a handful of private corporations. Want to read the papers featuring the most famous results of the sciences? You'll need to send enormous amounts to publishers like Reed Elsevier. There are those struggling to change this. The open access movement has fought valiantly to ensure that scientists do not sign their copyrights away, but instead ensure their work is published on the internet under terms that allow anyone to access it. Let me find another good line in here. That is too high a price to pay. Forcing academics to pay money to read the works of their colleagues, scanning entire libraries but only allowing the folks at Google to read them, providing scientific articles to those at elite universities in the first world but not to children in the global south. It's outrageous and unacceptable. Those with access to these resources, students, librarians, scientists, you have been given a privilege. You get to feed at this banquet of knowledge while the rest of the world is locked out. But you need not, indeed morally, you cannot, keep this privilege for yourselves. You have a duty to share it with the world. Large corporations, of course, are blinded by greed. The laws under which they operate require it. Their shareholders would revolt at anything less, and the politicians that have bought off back them, getting laws or passing laws giving them exclusive power to decide who can make copies. Remember, it's a copy. There is no justice in following unjust laws. It's time to come into the light and, in the grand tradition of civil disobedience, declare our opposition to this private theft of public culture. We need to take information wherever it is stored, make our copies, and share them with the world. We need to take stuff that's out of copyright and add it to the archive. We need to buy secret databases and put them on the web. We need to download scientific journals and upload them to file sharing networks. We need to fight for guerrilla open access. With enough of us around the world, we'll not just send a strong message opposing this privatization of knowledge, we'll make it a thing of the past. Will you join us? Alright, thanks for joining us, guys. This was the first episode of the series called uh, Selenium WebDriver, the web crawler series, um, and we'll be delving in much deeper with specific examples for big sites like Bing, uh, Google Images, Bing Images, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Um, and we'll just practice on these big ones because these are sites that everyone uses and everyone could benefit from automating their interactions with. And it'll also teach people how to do it on their own. The best way to learn is through examples and through practicing. So, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you had any difficulty getting this installed, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Be the change you want to see in the world, like Gandhi said. What was that quote that we were looking at earlier? Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own.